Did you know that the majority of women today are drawn to certain types of men, charming, outgoing, and always in the spotlight? But there's a small, elusive group of men who, despite possessing traits many would consider ideal, seem to rub modern women the wrong way. These men are known as Sigma males. They're the lone wolves, the ones who walk their own path, indifferent to societal norms and expectations. And here's the shocking truth: about 97% of modern women can't stand them. But why? Why do so many women find Sigma males so frustrating, so challenging, that they can't help but dislike them? Is it jealousy, fear, or simply a misunderstanding? By the end of this video, you'll understand the deep-rooted reasons behind this phenomenon, and you might just see both Sigma males and modern women in a whole new light. Let's uncover why they're the modern woman's worst nightmare. Reason 1: independence that threatens control. Sigma males are the embodiment of self-sufficiency. They don't rely on others for validation, approval, or even a sense of worth. They know who they are at the core, and that unshakable independence becomes both their armor and their strength. For many modern women, this is deeply unsettling. Why? Because much of traditional dating dynamics, and even modern relationships, rely on influence. Women are often used to shaping their partner's choices, guiding their behavior, or at least feeling that their opinions carry a powerful weight in the relationship. But with a Sigma male, the script completely flips. Imagine a woman who is used to being the center of her partner's universe. Her opinions are considered first, her emotions guide the direction of the relationship, and her desires are often prioritized. This gives her a sense of control, security, and validation. Now, imagine her meeting a Sigma male. Suddenly, her usual influence doesn't work. He doesn't chase her approval, he doesn't hang on her every word, and he certainly doesn't bend his will to please her. Instead, he lives on his own terms, unapologetically. This creates a shocking power shift. For her, it's like trying to hold water in her hands. The tighter she grips, the faster it slips away. That's the Sigma male, uncontainable, unreachable, and unshaken by pressure to conform. This lack of dependence can feel like a threat because it dismantles the usual dynamic. Most people are comforted when someone needs them. It creates attachment, security, and predictability. But when someone doesn't need you, it forces you to confront your own role, your own value, and sometimes even your own insecurities. As the famous quote goes, the most dangerous creation of any society is the man who has nothing to lose. Sigma males embody this energy. They're dangerous not because they seek to harm, but because they cannot be controlled. And in a world where dependence is often mistaken for love, the Sigma's independence becomes terrifying. For some women, it doesn't look like strength, it looks like rejection. Reason 2: the enigma of emotional detachment. Emotions are the glue of most relationships. People are taught to wear their hearts on their sleeves, to share their highs and lows, their joys and sorrows, as a way of bonding. For many women, emotional vulnerability is not just important, it's essential. But Sigma males approach emotions differently. They aren't cold, nor are they incapable of feeling. Instead, they guard their inner world carefully. They choose not to broadcast their emotions for the world to see. To them, emotions are private, something sacred, not something to be paraded. This creates an aura of mystery that can be both magnetic and maddening. Women often find themselves intrigued by this detachment at first. It feels like a challenge, like there's a secret hidden beneath the surface that only they can unlock. But over time, this same mystique can transform into frustration. It's like reading a book with half the pages torn out. You might grasp the outline of the story, but you'll never truly know what's missing. That uncertainty breeds discomfort. Imagine this: a woman pours her heart out to a Sigma male. She's vulnerable, she's raw, and she's expecting him to meet her in that space with equal openness. But instead of reciprocating, he remains calm, collected, and almost unreadable. His response isn't filled with drama, reassurance, or emotional theatrics. Instead, it's measured, detached, and restrained. To her, this feels like indifference. She interprets his silence as a lack of care, his calm as coldness, his mystery as disinterest. And nothing cuts deeper than investing emotionally in someone who doesn't appear to give the same in return. But here's the paradox: that very detachment is what makes Sigma males so magnetic. They aren't emotionally absent, they're emotionally disciplined. They don't hand over their inner world to just anyone. This creates an intensity around them, a sense that there's so much more beneath the surface than they're revealing. Psychologically, this is where the intrigue comes from. The human brain is wired to fill in gaps, and with Sigma males, there are always gaps. What does he really feel? What's going on in his head? Why doesn't he open up? These unanswered questions create an emotional puzzle women can't stop trying to solve. But the Sigma male doesn't play that game. He refuses to perform emotions for validation. And while this leaves many women frustrated, it also makes him unforgettable. Reason 3, unyielding confidence. Confidence is universally attractive, people gravitate toward those who know who they are. But Sigma males embody a different breed of confidence. It's not loud, it's not performative, and it's certainly not fragile. Their confidence is quiet, unshakable, and deeply rooted in self-awareness. It comes from within, not from the applause of others. They don't need to puff out their chest, dominate conversations, or demand attention. Their power is in their stillness. They walk into a room without announcing themselves, and yet people feel their presence. It's the kind of confidence that whispers, "I don't need to prove myself, because I already know who I am." For many women, this is both magnetic and unnerving. On one hand, it draws them in. There's something intoxicating about a man who doesn't chase validation, who seems completely whole on his own. But on the other hand, it unsettles them. Why? Because they're used to men who thrive on compliments, who bend slightly for approval, who soften their edges to be liked. The Sigma male does none of this. He stands as he is, unapologetic, immovable, complete. Imagine a dinner party where everyone is subtly competing, telling their best stories, laughing loudly, showing off achievements. And then there's one man who isn't playing the game. He sits back, listening, observing, content in his own skin. While others scramble for recognition, his calm detachment makes him stand out more than anyone else. But here's the paradox: his quiet self-assurance, while deeply alluring, is often misinterpreted. To some, it looks like arrogance. To others, it feels like he's untouchable, too self-contained to need anyone else. In a society that equates loudness with confidence, the Sigma male's silent dominance is misunderstood as coldness. And that misunderstanding sparks discomfort. Because deep down, his very existence exposes a truth most people don't want to face: real confidence doesn't shout, it simply is. And that level of authenticity terrifies those who rely on external validation to feel whole. Reason 4, rejection of traditional roles. The Sigma male doesn't just bend the rules, he refuses to acknowledge they exist in the first place. Society hands men a script: be the provider, the protector, the pursuer, the one who follows the expected milestones: dating, engagement, marriage, family. Most men either embrace these roles or struggle against them quietly. But Sigmas? They toss the script aside entirely and write their own. They don't fit neatly into the boyfriend mold, the husband mold, or even the archetype of the ideal man sold by culture. Instead, they define relationships on their own terms: fluid, unconventional, and unpredictable. While most women have been conditioned to expect a timeline, introductions to friends, moving in together, planning a future, the Sigma disrupts this rhythm. He's not opposed to deep love or connection, but he refuses to let society dictate how or when it happens. For women who crave stability through predictability, this rejection of traditional roles is frustrating, even threatening. It's like being on a road trip without a map, exhilarating at first, but eventually unnerving when you realize you don't know where it's leading. His unpredictability, while freeing to him, feels like instability to her. This is where the clash arises. Many women equate predictability with love and commitment. But the Sigma male equates predictability with confinement. He doesn't rebel for the sake of rebellion, he simply doesn't acknowledge the rules that others feel bound by. And this, to someone invested in the traditional path, feels like chaos. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche captured it perfectly: those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music. The Sigma male hears music that others don't. He dances freely, guided by an inner rhythm that doesn't match society's drumbeat. To some, this is inspiring. To others, it's maddening. And because people often fear what they don't understand, the Sigma's rejection of roles becomes yet another reason women love and hate him simultaneously. His independence is alluring, but his refusal to conform makes him impossible to control. Reason 4, rejection of traditional roles. Sigma males are not just men who stand outside of the mainstream, they are men who reject the very idea of fitting into molds. Unlike alpha males, who thrive on leadership roles, or beta males, who seek comfort in following the script, the Sigma male writes his own story from scratch. He doesn't feel compelled to play the role of the ideal boyfriend, the dream husband, or even the perfect gentleman that society has glorified. This isn't to say that Sigmas can't love deeply or form meaningful connections. They absolutely can. But they refuse to let culture or tradition dictate how those connections should look. Society offers a predictable checklist of milestones: first the romantic dates, then the introductions to family and friends, followed by the vacation photos, the engagement announcement, the wedding, and finally the promise of a settled, conventional life. To most women, this rhythm feels normal, safe, even necessary. But for a Sigma male, it feels suffocating. The Sigma operates on his own terms. He might skip those milestones entirely, or reinvent them in a way that makes sense only to him. He might value solitude over constant companionship, authenticity over staged social displays, depth over surface-level rituals. Instead of following the road society lays out, he forges his own path through the wilderness, unmarked, uncertain, and entirely his own. For many women, this is not only confusing but also deeply unsettling. They've been conditioned to measure the seriousness of a relationship by its conformity to tradition. If a man doesn't plan a future in the way they expect, they assume he isn't committed. If he doesn't play the role society demands, they assume something is wrong with him. It's like driving without GPS, exhilarating at first, because you're breaking the rules, but eventually terrifying when you realize there are no signposts, no guarantees, no certainty about where you're headed. That's the experience of being with a Sigma male, thrilling but destabilizing. And here's the heart of the tension: most people don't fear him as much as they fear what he represents. The Sigma male's rejection of roles challenges the very foundation of how society defines love, commitment, and identity. He proves that one can live outside the system and still thrive, and that truth is threatening to anyone who has tied their sense of security to conformity. Nietzsche captured this perfectly when he wrote, "Those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music." The Sigma male isn't insane, he simply hears a different rhythm, one most people can't perceive. And so he dances freely, while others watch in confusion, criticism, or even envy. Reason 5, the fear of the unconventional. At the root of society's discomfort with Sigma males lies a single, powerful emotion: fear. More specifically, the fear of the unconventional. Human beings are wired to crave predictability, patterns, categories, labels that make life easier to understand. When someone refuses to fit into those categories, they become a wild card, and wild cards make people nervous. Sigma males don't fit into the boxes that society loves to use. They're not the alpha, the leader demanding the spotlight. They're not the beta, the agreeable follower seeking comfort. They exist in their own lane, fluid and undefined. They don't follow the crowd, they don't seek approval, and they don't need validation to affirm their existence. This refusal to conform makes them unpredictable, and unpredictability, in the eyes of many, equals danger. For modern women especially, this creates a psychological conflict. On one hand, unpredictability can be magnetic. A Sigma's mystery sparks curiosity, his independence radiates strength, and his refusal to follow the herd makes him stand out from every other man. But on the other hand, that same unpredictability feels unsafe. He cannot be controlled, predicted, or tamed. And for someone who craves stability, this is terrifying. Consider this: most relationships operate within a shared social framework. Both partners understand the rules of the game, how to express commitment, what milestones to expect, how to balance roles. But when a woman encounters a Sigma male, those rules dissolve. She can't rely on social scripts or cultural norms to interpret his behavior. Instead, she is forced to confront the raw reality of who he is. And that reality doesn't fit her expectations. This is why many choose the easy path. They label him undesirable, too distant, or too complicated. By dismissing him, they protect themselves from the discomfort he provokes. Because the alternative, the harder truth, is that his existence forces them to confront their own insecurities, their own dependence on structure, and their own fear of the unknown. The Sigma male embodies freedom. But freedom, for many, feels like chaos. And so instead of embracing it, they reject it. Instead of trying to understand the unconventional, they push it away. Ultimately, the dislike of Sigma males isn't about them at all, it's about what they represent. They embody the terrifying possibility that life doesn't need to follow the rules, that approval isn't necessary for worth, and that true independence is possible. And for those who've built their lives around convention, that truth is too heavy to bear. Reason 6, their resistance to manipulation. One of the most unsettling things about Sigma males, especially for modern women who are used to holding emotional or social influence over men, is that they cannot be easily manipulated. Most men, whether alpha or beta, have clear pressure points. Alphas often have egos that can be flattered or provoked. Betas often crave approval and affection, making them vulnerable to subtle emotional cues. But Sigma males? They stand apart. Their self-sufficiency, emotional detachment, and inner discipline make them nearly immune to manipulation tactics that others fall prey to. This resistance is not stubbornness, it's clarity. Sigma males know themselves deeply. They've spent time alone, away from the noise of society, learning what drives them, what matters to them, and what does not. That internal compass is nearly impossible to sway. So when someone attempts to guilt-trip them, play games, or pull strings to get a reaction, they simply don't take the bait. For many women, this is deeply frustrating. Relationships often involve a push and pull of influence, where emotions can be leveraged to shape behavior. But with a Sigma, the usual strategies don't work. If she tries to make him jealous, he shrugs. If she withholds affection, he doesn't chase. If she attempts to pressure him into conformity, he quietly refuses. It's like trying to play chess against someone who doesn't even need to move his pieces to win. Psychologically, this creates tension. On one hand, his resistance is fascinating, because true strength and independence are rare. On the other, it feels threatening, because it means she cannot control him. And for many, the inability to control is indistinguishable from danger. But here's the irony: this resistance is precisely what makes Sigmas trustworthy to those who truly understand them. Because they cannot be manipulated, they also don't manipulate. Their independence grants them freedom from both sides of the game. They deal in honesty, in authenticity, and in choice, not in control. Still, for women, and people in general, who rely on influence to feel secure in relationships, this detachment can feel like rejection. It's easier to label him as cold or uncaring than to recognize that his refusal to play along is actually a sign of strength, not weakness. In the end, Sigma males unsettle people not because they lack emotions, but because they cannot be swayed by tactics that exploit emotions. And in a society where manipulation is often disguised as connection, this makes them both feared and unforgettable. Final words. So, why do 97% of modern women hate Sigma males? It's not because they're inherently unlikable, it's because they challenge the norms and expectations society has ingrained. They embody independence, emotional detachment, unyielding confidence, a rejection of traditional roles, and an unconventional approach to life. In a world that values conformity, these traits are unsettling. But maybe it isn't hate that drives this aversion, maybe it's fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear of the unconventional. Fear of the uncontrollable. Sigma males don't fit neatly into society's boxes. And that's exactly what makes them both fascinating and feared. If you found this video thought-provoking and want to dive deeper into the world of Sigma males, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more insights. Share your thoughts in the comments. Are Sigma males truly misunderstood, or is there more to the story? See you in the next video.